Hey guys, it's Dana and it's time to talk about money. And in this video, I wanted to talk about the top 3 patterns of people who are rich, as well as some habits that might be keeping you poor. So let's talk about that. First off, how you define rich is definitely relative to the person next to you that you might be comparing yourself to. Just like in a job, say, if you start out working in a entry-level position and you're surrounded with a bunch of other people who are making about the same amount of money as you, everybody drives about the same kind of car, and they're eating at the same restaurants, then you are going to feel rich or not rich compared to how much money they have, the people you're spending time with. And then as you sort of perhaps move up the ladder in your job, if you start hanging out with managers and then directors, maybe you move up and you're now surrounded with CEOs, then how you're going to feel when you're at the top there as far as being rich or not rich, again, is going to be compared to who you're spending time with. Who's in your neighborhood? Again, your next door neighbor or your family members or your friends. And if you've got a bunch of friends that you went to high school with and like several of them have really made it in their careers, maybe you make $100,000 a year. Maybe you make $200,000 a year, but your friends that you went to high school with are all making $400,000, or they've got these amazing real estate portfolios and they're all like, they've all got $20 million net worth. Then you're doing pretty darn good with your $200,000 a year salary. Most people would consider you to be rich, but you might be sort of feeling down in the dumps because everybody that you know is making way more than you, so you feel like you're poor. So, which you're not, right? So again, it's important to be aware of that. And in that could be a habit that is keeping you on the poor end. And what I mean by that is, if you move up in your career and you're now making, a lot more money than you used to, you might be like, all right, I'm making more money. We need to move up in house. We need to get a bigger house. And now that we've got the bigger house, we need a better car. We can't have our, piece of crap car in the driveway now that we're living in this nice, expensive neighborhood. So now we need a brand new car. And now we need to take really nice vacations because all our neighbors are going to Europe. So we have to go to Europe too. And then so before you know it, like you are making a good salary, but you also are now spending it all, right? The more money we have, the more money we spend. And if you are falling into that trap with those habits, you are always going to be poor no matter how much money you make, because you just keep spending it all, or you keep trying to keep up with everybody you're around. And so it's my advice and opinion and my own way, my family, the way my husband and I do it. Like, I have no interest in moving into a luxury high-end neighborhood. I don't really care if I won, $100 million. I would not want to live in those. I would just like to stay in my modest neighborhood. I want my kids to be surrounded with other kids in my modest neighborhood, because that we never have like the feeling like that we are not good enough, even though we've got, enough, if that in this lottery scenario. So I would, so if you can consider that when you start to make more money, hopefully you do, if you're working on your career and you're interested in growing wealth, then you will, perhaps be like, well, maybe we should just stay at our modest, level home, maybe upgrade a little bit, but just consider who you're surrounding yourself with, because then that's going to impact whether or not you feel rich or whether or not you're developing habits where you're, just saving or spending. And so it's best, obviously, to be saving. All right, so let's talk about now like the patterns of people who are very rich. First off is one that probably people are not going to enjoy, which is luck. And you have to discuss it though, because it is a factor. So if I was listening to this one millionaire in this interview talking about how he knew that he was very fortunate that he was born in the 60s as a white heterosexual male, because the environment that he was, that he grew up in, he had certain advantages over others based off, the way he was born. So if you're born into certain countries, you might, not even have a high chance of living past the age of 10 due to, you might not have proper nutrition. So there is a factor there as far as where in like what location you're born, what generation, what year you're born into, what family you're born into. So that's a factor. And or also with luck is who you cross paths with. So if you listen to, again, interviews with people who are millionaires, almost always, if you listen to the interview, there's a point in the story, if they're talking about their early years, where they'll say, I, met this person who became my mentor. I just started working for this guy, and then he was in real estate, and he started, he just took, a liking to me. So he started sharing all his secrets with me about how he buys real estate and how he flips it, or, how to be a landlord. Like usually there's some element of luck as far as who they discover to be their mentors, right? So that's something that we can't control. We can, being in the right place at the right time. But that is something that is a factor. Now, the next pattern is stubbornness or persistence, an ability to continue going even though it's hard. So it's, most of the time, a lot of people will whatever they're doing, if they're starting a business or say a blog or they're doing videos, they might do 10 videos and be like, nobody's watching, nobody cares, I'm done with this, right? And so you have to have some element where you're willing to continue to press forward, even though you're not getting validation or a lot of immediate success, which leads me to the next item, which is you have to have a certain tolerance or threshold for pain because it's not easy, right? It's not easy to continue to take risks, put yourself out there if you're trying to grow your career, if you're trying to save for an emergency fund, it can take years. I just talked about that in a video recently. And so you have to realize it's not going to be something that's simple. We talk a lot about trying to save money, trying to, redo, have mono meals or low ingredient meals, cook at home. That's not easy. That's not always easy. You might be like, oh, this food is so boring. This is not fun. I want to go out to, some fancy restaurant. And you have to be able to endure that time period where you're working really hard, to save money, to build an emergency fund, to build your career, which might mean extra hours, or you have to be able to endure the pain of criticism. Because when you first start out with something and you're trying to move up at work or, trying to, do a YouTube channel or post blogs, you're going to get people telling you that you're dumb, that, you don't know what you're doing. Or when you're trying to get out of debt, people are like, oh, you're never going to get out of debt. You're always going to have debt. Everybody has a car payment. You're never going to be able to do that. You're stupid to think that. That's ridiculous. I mean, you're most likely going to hear that from people. And if you sort of falter and sort of quit things at the first time of criticism or painful events of somebody making you feel awful, which is inevitable, unfortunately, in this world, then you're not going to be able to do it, right? You're not going to make it. So you have to have a threshold for enduring the painful feelings or the uncomfortableness. Because in order to make more money in the corporate world, or even in business, you have to make yourself uncomfortable. I was listening to this one interview with this girl who has an Etsy shop, and she makes millions of dollars with her Etsy shop. And it was a wonderful interview with her because she doesn't do a lot of interviews, but she was saying how she has never been more uncomfortable in her entire life than she was building this Etsy business and dealing with customer service and the finances and, trying to grow and scale and build the business. And she was so uncomfortable, right? And then she was getting better, as the time went on, she was getting used to it and developing processes and figuring out how to do it. But in order to do something great, you have to be uncomfortable and deal with the pain of that, which is why not everybody does it. That's why, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And it's not easy. And it's, and then building your career, you have to be willing to do new jobs or switch companies if you're in the corporate world. And that's, again, uncomfortable, having to reprove yourself all over again with a new set of people and learn new systems and, the new, processes of the new company or the new team. And that's, it's a lot of work. It's not easy. And you sometimes go home feeling like you want to cry and it's really hard, or driving into work, you feel like you want to cry. And so So those are the patterns, though, of people who find success, however you define that, but people who are able to build wealth or become rich, again, whatever that means to you. It's not a set dollar figure by no means. One person's $1 million of being rich is another person's like dirt poor. Maybe to them it's 50 million or, you know, a billion. So it's kind of, again, like it's definitely relative. And then once you reach that mark of when you think that you're rich, most likely it's, you know, you're still going to be work after that, you know? So recently somebody on my channel put a comment talking about retirement and how like they don't really want to retire, or like their dad had said something about retiring at 69 or something 60, but then it's like if you're, you know, if you're retired, you're basically unemployed. And like, but I don't really ever want to be retired. Like I want to have the independence to do what I want to do, but I by no means ever want to stop working. I think that would be incredibly depressing. I want to continue to be working on something because, you know, and also, like there's been studies done, like some level of stress is required for happiness. If you don't have some kind of stress in your life, you will just create it. So it's important to continue to develop ourselves and to work and expand and learn and to never stop. Because if we want to be truly happy, that's a lifelong thing. So it's good to develop the habits of being able to deal with being uncomfortable and continue to have a good work ethic, because it's not like we're going to reach this goal and then just sit around all day doing nothing but watching TV. That's not going, in my opinion, I don't think that really brings true happiness. So anyway, so hopefully this helps you guys to think about some behavior patterns that you might want to work on or adopt or develop in order to help you to become rich or find success, again, whatever that means to you. If you have any other ideas or tips for others, please leave them down below in the comments. And if you're interested in building an emergency fund, I will link a video up here where I talk all about that. And if you do, I'll see you there. And if it's your first time here, don't be, I was going to say don't subscribe. No, you And if it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.